Hey, what's up guys? Sly Elliott here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Borderlands movie. Personally, I loved the film. I mean, its mixture of amazing CG with this crazy cool world building and interesting, hilarious characters really makes for a fun experience. So much so, I think that this world would be really fit for some sort of video game adaptation or something like that. I really want to experience the world of Pandora that they've laid out in this movie, and hopefully one day they make some sort of like video game based on this movie, right? The Borderlands movie is directed by Eli Roth, made by Lionsgate in association with Gearbox and 2K, looking over their shoulder, and made by production companies I've never heard of before, starring Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, the Greenblatt little girl from the Barbie movie, and some guy that we never see the face of playing Krieg the Psycho. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but genuinely this movie might be one of the worst films I've watched in maybe the last 3 years. Let's just cut right to the chase. Let's just call it what it is. I think as a movie, it fails pretty badly, and I think the critical and audience receptions of the film reflect that. And then also just as a film adaptation of a beloved game franchise being Borderlands, I think that it's also not very rewarding for fans of the Borderlands franchise. I don't think it does the source material justice.
Your money, not your life. If you try to make a move, I don't want to. Roll the window up. Roll it up.
It's Pete. It's Pete. Why do you think it's called piss wash? How did I get the name?
It's in my mouth.
The film fails technically, artistically, and just in the fun fan service factor as well. The CG is often not good and does not actually meld the live action with the computer generated stuff very well. Like Claptrap's pretty decent when he's on screen, and you know, he had to be because he's interacting with all the other human characters so much and so directly. But then there's a lot of other stuff that just looks really not good. You would really be hard pressed to be able to tell this is a film that was made in 2024 with 2024 caliber technology and computer generated graphics. This seems like it was shot on a more lean budget. Oh, the story's weak, and if you've played the first Borderlands game, there's no surprise at all here in this film. If you're a fan of the series, if you've played through the other games, there's zero mystery or anything like that. You can see the plot from a mile away if you've played the games, and even if you haven't played the games, it probably is still fairly obvious because the filmmaking and storytelling here is so heavy-handed and ham-fisted. It's very hard to be surprised by a single thing that takes place on screen. The script and the dialogue is clunky, it's not good, it's very rarely funny. Borderlands being a video game franchise known for its gory, hyper-violent combat and over-the-top cartoonish graphics with its bombastic Wild West fanfare, coupled with, you know, very funny, quippy characters and a lot of very tongue-in-cheek comedy and campy moments throughout. There's not quite so much of that in this film. Claptrap is the only funny character, really. Everyone else, when they try to be funny, it's really not funny at all. Really confusing, the casting of Kevin Hart as Roland being a big, tall, buff black man who's very stoic, serious, and the least funny character in the group, especially in that main, you know, Borderlands 1 group. Very weird, I thought, to cast a short, small comedian to play that character, and I thought, oh, maybe they're just going to go in a totally different direction with it. No, Kevin Hart, fairly serious in this film for some reason. Bizarre. Because you would think that professional stand-up comedian gonna be a funny... No, Kevin Hart here is trying to flex his like action hero chops or something. I don't know. I really don't know what he's doing. And Jack Black, you could argue, is even a little underutilized because you almost can't tell it's Jack Black because of all the special effects and voice modulation on his voice as Claptrap, that you'd miss it if you weren't paying key attention and weren't super familiar with Jack Black's his signature delivery and cadence, how he kind of tells jokes and runs through lines and stuff like that. It could breeze right past you that he's even playing Claptrap, though I think maybe they should have let the original voice actor of Claptrap do the voice of the character, since you kind of couldn't tell it was Jack Black anyway. It seems like a gross misallocation of budget. You know, they paid all this money to get Jack Black in the film just for his voice to kind of be covered up very heavily by post-production and voice modulation anyway. It's kind of like, well, what was the point of spending all that money when the original voice actor for Claptrap obviously would have done it? Oh. Ariana Greenblatt, I believe is her name, sorry, from the Barbie movie, extremely annoying. I know she's a child. I know Tiny Tina's supposed to be annoying. I know that's like, okay. Wow. It almost seems like she's riffing on the script and doing ad-libs and improvising lines at times, like just super weird and out of pocket throwaway lines that she'll sneak in there in certain scenes. Very weird, never funny, always just kind of grating and annoying. Jamie Lee Curtis is doing her what seems like an impression, a very bad impression of what she thinks someone on the autism spectrum is like. It's not good. Like, it's just so over the top. It's so overt, lacking any subtlety whatsoever. It seems like a bad impression rather than her actually like embodying a character and like trying to act. Not a single Cage the Elephant song is licensed here. No Rest for the Wicked was nowhere to be found, which I thought was an incredible missed opportunity. Instead, we get the Ace of Spades from Motorhead at one point, but the audio mixing in the scene is so bad that you can barely hear the song that they've probably paid $1 million to license and have in the film over all of the gunfire and dumbass one-liners that the characters were saying the entire time, muddying and wasting the moment of having that cool set piece to music. Now, failed video game to film adaptations are nothing new. We had Assassin's Creed, the movie, in 2016 with Michael Fassbender. We had the Alone in the Dark movie, Doom, in 2005. We had Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time in 2010 starring Jake Gyllenhaal as the Prince of Persia. It's not been a squeaky clean track record. It's historically a fairly difficult thing to pull off, especially when you're doing live action. This film is predominantly live action, and the only movies that have historically been at all successful adapting to film in recent time has been like movies that really amalgamate CG worlds and characters with live action settings and things like that, like Detective Pikachu and the Sonic the Hedgehog films. When we talk about what is in the Borderlands DNA that makes it Borderlands, special abilities, it's the wide array of all these different weapons and guns and, you know, and the comedy and the hyper violence and gore, and so little of that is in this film. There's no blood, there's no dismemberment really, unless you count that one monster once. Other than that, there's just no blood, there's no gore, there's very little cursing. The weapon variety is pretty sparse. A lot of the characters, they just use the same weapons over and over again. Like Roland uses the same gun the entire time. Lilith uses pretty much the same pistol the entire time. Krieg uses his saw blade the entire time. And then the only funny character is Claptrap. Everyone else is either played pretty straight and serious, or their comedy falls very flat pretty much the entire time. Claptrap and Krieg, the Psycho, are the two best characters in the film. Cate Blanchett tries, I'll give her that, but I just feel like there's a big missed opportunity to make this really capture the spirit of the Borderlands games and do that justice. Okay, hey, if we're not going to do that and we're just going to try to treat this like its own thing, something that stands on its own, that doesn't depend on you knowing Borderlands and stuff like that, I still don't think it's a very compelling film on its own, especially not. The only reason to maybe watch this film is if you're a really big fan of Borderlands and you're just hyper curious about something like this. As just a film on its own, it's not good. It's not even worth watching, unfortunately. I wish that weren't the case. I wish this movie were better. I wish it did more justice for the source material. I wish it was funnier. I wish it was gorier. I just wish it was something. But it every time plays things just a little too safe, where it should have gone all the way. And this is a film that just, for some reason, they just didn't want to go all the way. Oh, what's Borderlands? It's the psychos, and it's, you know, the guy from the cover, it's Claptrap, it's this, it's that. But to put together an actually compelling story that didn't depend on, it is the plot of the first game, although the plot of the first game is fairly basic, it doesn't do anything new. It doesn't really add anything new to the Borderlands franchise or IP. It just doesn't do enough to make it worthwhile, you know, to set it apart from the rest. Like, your time is better spent going and playing Borderlands 1 and 2, enjoying that experience, because what makes Borderlands good does not translate to this film very well. Could it translate to the big screen? Maybe a looter shooter where the hook is, you know, the weapon variety out the wazoo and tons of, gun permutations and stuff like that, co-op and everything like that. Could that translate to the big screen somehow? Maybe. But this is the ultimate issue with adapting video games, which is a multi-sense engaging thing that you can interact with, and then putting it on a screen where you're just watching it passively as an audience member, is that so much of what makes the game good is impossible to translate onto the big screen. And that will always be a limitation of the film, movie format, when you're trying to take something that's way more engaging and then make it something that is less engaging. The action set pieces aren't even that good. The Bobby Lee cameo's fun. I wish he's in the movie a little bit more, actually. Good on him. I'm happy for him. There's so many times in this film where I literally rolled my eyes in real life, not because I was trying to be funny or make anyone laugh around me, but because I just actually couldn't handle what was happening. Like, it just washing over me, and the wasted opportunity here, the wasted potential. Like, the fact that any studio even wanted to bankroll a project like this in the first place is miraculous, right? Like, the fact that any studio was like, we'll pay to make a Borderlands movie, bit of a deep cut, right? Who does Randy Pitchford at Gearbox Software know that got this thing moving? Like, how did this even happen? It's not obvious to me. It doesn't make sense to me. I'd be shocked if there was a sequel to this film, although there is an opening for it. I would just be absolutely flabbergasted if it got a sequel. This is probably the last we're going to see of Borderlands on the big screen, which unfortunately I think is for the best. Let's leave the dead horse unbeaten. I saw this thing even in IMAX and failed to wow at all on the big screen, with all the effects and the CG and the fanfare and the sound and everything. It was not good. Maybe this would actually be better experienced on Netflix or streaming at home. I actually think this could have been more successful if they skipped a theatrical release entirely and just went straight to streaming. I actually think it may have done better that way. Having people go and pay to go to the theaters to see something like this, and even IMAX can't really do it justice or make it worthwhile. It's not a good look. I mean, there was actually a point where there was a low light scene that they were shooting, and I could actually see the grain from them hiking up the exposure and the ISO and whatever from their cameras to expose the shot while they were filming, because I guess their lighting wasn't good enough or something. Amateurish filmmaking, unfortunately, here from Eli Roth and company. I wish I could say not that, but I mean, it was difficult to sit through certain scenes, whether the action was paced oddly and the editing was weird so that you couldn't tell what was even happening, or the dialogue was bad and the script was not funny, or just the overall story and plot was not compelling, or the CG was making you kind of grimace at how bad it looked. There was always kind of something going on at any given time to make your stomach turn while you're watching it. And that sounds super scathing. I wish it was not that way. Bizarre experience, to be honest with you. I wish that wasn't the case. I really do. I don't love hating, but like this film was so crazy bad that I kind of had to get on here and speak my piece about it just so that I could feel better and get it off my chest so I could stop thinking about it, because it's crazy. I don't like it. You shouldn't watch it. Doesn't matter if you like Borderlands or not. You shouldn't watch it. Do not take your girlfriend to go see this. She's going to hate it. Just don't do it. You'll have a better time going and taking the hour and 45 minutes, whatever the runtime was here, and just playing Borderlands 1. You'll have more fun. So that's really all I have to say, guys. Thanks so much for watching and listening. This has been my opinion of the Borderlands movie. Let me know if you've seen the movie and what you thought in the comments down below. If not, totally fine. Save yourself if you haven't seen it yet. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. God bless.